Welcome to this explainer. Today we're mapping out a fascinating, intense, and honestly, a pretty invisible journey. I want you to picture a scene with me. You're 19 years old, you're sitting in a college dorm room, and yeah, it smells faintly of instant noodles. It's 2 a.m., your roommate is completely passed out, but you are wide awake, just staring at a screen. You're watching a video of a guy claiming he just made $1,000 in a single afternoon. He's sitting in a flashy sports car, smiling. And in that quiet, late-night hour, you decide you want that exact kind of freedom more than anything else in the world. So let's follow this journey and see how one late-night decision kicks off a lifelong chain reaction. You open up a brokerage app. You link the checking account your grandmother set up for you, and you deposit $400, literally almost every single dollar you have to your name. Your hands are actually shaking a bit as you execute your very first trade, buying 3 shares of some company you saw hyped online. By lunch, you're up $11, and you feel like an absolute genius. But then, by dinner, the screen flashes red. You're down $6. You panic and sell at a loss, because honestly, the physical feeling of losing is just unbearable. Well, you've just learned your very first, brutal lesson. The market doesn't care about your feelings. It immediately shatters that intoxicating illusion of quick wealth that the guy in the sports car sold you. So, instead of going to class, you start obsessively watching videos. You finally learn what a chart actually represents. It's not just random lines and numbers, right? A chart is literally a picture of human fear and greed. You open up a fake, practice account, and suddenly you're winning. Filled with this fresh, totally unearned confidence, you skip your morning classes, wait for the 9:30 a.m. opening bell, and dive right back in with real money. By the end of the week, you've actually turned $600 into $800. You tell yourself, hey, I'm a natural. But the harsh reality of market psychology is that you haven't actually figured anything out yet. You've just been lucky. And that early luck, that is exactly what makes this game so incredibly dangerous. Inevitably, a devastating loss completely wipes out your account. But then, your mentality shifts. You stop watching the flashy guys in sports cars and you start watching the boring videos. You learn a fundamental truth. The men who survive in this business aren't the ones who win big, they're the ones who lose small. You write out cold, hard rules and literally tape them to the bottom of your monitor. Things like, never risk more than 1% on a single trade. Never trade just to get even after a loss. Size down your positions. You start building your account back up at an agonizingly slow pace. It's no longer about swinging for the fences, it's strictly about survival. Through relentless journaling, tracking every single entry and exit, you start noticing patterns hiding in your own behavior. You realize you're selling your winners way too early, you're holding your losers way too long, and you trade the absolute most recklessly when you're angry. And this brings us to a really profound realization. This whole battle, it's entirely psychological. The enemy was never the market. The enemy was you. The true pursuit of a successful trader isn't chasing quick riches, it's the relentless daily pursuit of discipline over your own human nature. Now, to make a real living at this, you need capital. You find a prop firm, one of those companies that lets you trade their money, as long as you can pass a grueling simulated challenge. Well, you fail. You get emotional and blow right through the daily loss limit. You pay the fee, try again, and fail again. Finally, on the 3rd try, you stop treating it like a lottery ticket and treat it like a serious job. And you pass. You're handed a funded account of $100,000. But instead of feeling like you finally made it, you're hit with this new paralyzing stress. The fear of giving back your profits is so intense that some mornings, your hand literally freezes right there on the mouse. Flash forward, 2 years pass. You're now a full-time professional trader. You've got no boss, no commute, no annoying coworkers. But here is the real price of that freedom. Your entire world shrinks down to a desk, 3 glowing monitors, and an office chair. You're spending 10 hours a day in that bedroom. You eat lunch standing up just so you don't miss a market move. You meet a great woman named Sarah, and when you guys eventually move in together, you start hiding the painful red days from her. You promise her those losing days are going to get fewer and farther between, even though, deep down, you aren't actually sure it's a promise you can keep. Eventually, an established proprietary firm notices your track record and offers you a seat on a real trading floor right in Chicago. You leave that lonely bedroom behind and walk into a massive room filled with 20 other traders, endless screens, and constant shouting. The energy is just brutal and electric. And man, in your very first week, you are profoundly humbled. These veterans are so much sharper and faster than you. You quickly realize that despite all your success and isolation, stepping onto this floor means you are basically a beginner all over again. You end up sitting next to this veteran named Vince. When he watches you lose money on some stupid emotional trade, he doesn't yell. He just casually tells you to size down until you stop being an idiot. You watch how Vince handles his own massive losing days. He doesn't panic. He never revenge trades. He simply closes his laptop and goes home. From him, you learn that calm is a skill, not a personality trait. So you train that skill. You find your edge. Soon enough, you execute a brilliant trade on an earnings move that makes the firm $40,000 in just 20 minutes. Vince gives you this quiet nod of respect, and honestly, that nod means more to you than the money itself. Time goes on. You're now one of the most profitable traders on the desk, and you're 32 years old. One evening, Sarah is standing in your kitchen, and she tells you she's pregnant. You just stand there staring at the test on the counter for a long, long time. And in that quiet moment, for the very first time in your adult life, all those giant numbers flashing across your screens suddenly feel incredibly small. Over time, you see your mindset fundamentally evolve. Think about it. At 19, you were out there taking reckless gambles. At 25, you were surviving purely on white-knuckle discipline. But at 32, fatherhood shifts something really deep inside you. You aren't just trading for yourself anymore. Every single dollar means something totally different now. This new, heavy responsibility forces you to completely eliminate those reckless risks. You achieve a level of extreme consistency that you simply never had before. And as a direct result, the firm promotes you to senior trader. After 15 years in the trenches, you decide you want something of your very own. So you do the most terrifying thing yet. You leave the firm and launch your own hedge fund. You manage to raise $12 million. Now, in the high-stakes financial world, that's considered a tiny fund, but to you, it feels like an absolute mountain. You've officially transitioned from a day trader to a businessman. The pressure completely changes shape. You're no longer just risking some firm's capital, you are carrying the crushing weight of real people's life savings and retirement accounts. As your fund grows, you start to realize that running a fund is mostly just managing fear. It's the investor's fear when the market drops, your employee's fear when a position goes south, and your own creeping fear at 3 in the morning. When a real crash finally hits and the market plummets 30% in a matter of weeks, you become the calm one. You survive the carnage by relying on the very oldest rule you learned way back in your dorm room: protect the money before you ever try to grow it. Because of this ironclad risk management, your fund doesn't just survive the crash, it actually triples in size. But here's the thing. The market is a jealous entity. It wants all of you, and honestly, it usually wins. Despite your massive financial success, despite buying the big house in the suburbs and providing a life of ultimate comfort for your family, a much heavier reality sets in. You are working more than you ever have in your life. You promise yourself and you promise Sarah that you'll be home for dinner every single year. And every single year you break that promise, constantly sacrificing your personal life and your family time to the endless, demanding glow of the screens. Decades pass. You are now operating at the Titan level. You're managing over $2 billion. You are no longer just reacting to the market. Your buy and sell orders are so massive that you actually move the market itself. At this point, the money stops feeling real. You don't even think in dollars anymore. You think in basis points. A single bad day costs more than your father earned in his entire lifetime, and yet you barely even flinch. You've literally become a financial weather system that other traders are desperately trying to predict. But we have to look at the ultimate trade-off here. On one hand, you wield incredible institutional power and immense wealth. But on the other hand, you have a 16-year-old son who barely even speaks to you. You realize, with this sudden, devastating clarity, that you spent his entire childhood staring at market charts. Sure, you moved billion-dollar markets, but you missed the school games. You missed his first steps. You missed all those ordinary, quiet Tuesdays. At this incredible height, your biggest enemy is actually your own success. The sheer joy of trading, that's long gone. It's been completely replaced by an isolating paranoia. You hire these brilliant minds and pay them absolute fortunes, only to sit back and watch some of them steal your proprietary strategies to go start their own rival funds. You're constantly testifying before regulators. You have to take medication just to be able to shut your brain off and fall asleep at night. You sit alone at the top of a massive institution bearing your name. But let me tell you, it is an incredibly lonely, relentless peak. You are now 62 years old. You've been staring at trading screens for over 40 years. You finally decide to step back from the daily fight. You become a chairman, a living legend whose old trades are literally studied by the rookies. But handing over the reins brings its own quiet kind of grief. You sit in a beautiful, sprawling office with a $1 million view you never even bothered to look at, just staring into the quiet emptiness where the fight used to live. The screens, you finally realize, were never really about the money. They were always about feeling alive. right there on the edge of a decision. And this brings us to a very sober reality. This is the ultimate trade nobody ever warns you about at the start. Sure, you made fortunes, you've built an empire that will easily outlast you, but the unrecoverable cost of that extreme level of success is time. You could have taken any one of those ordinary Tuesdays off over the years, and you never once did. Now you understand the hardest lesson of all. Absolutely no amount of capital, no billion-dollar fund can ever buy back a single one of those missed days. You sit in the quiet hours, and you have to wonder, what did it all actually add up to? And as you ask yourself that question, somewhere, right now, a 19-year-old is sitting in a dorm room at 2 in the morning. He's watching a video of a guy in a sports car. He's looking at the $400 sitting in his checking account. His hands are shaking with excitement, and he thinks this is finally going to make him rich. He thinks this will make him free. He has absolutely no idea what his dream will cost him. And just like that, the cycle begins again. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.